The glass shattered before Sophie Lane even realized her hand had slipped. For one terrifying second, everything in the Sterling Crown Casino went silent. No music, no laughter, no clinking champagne glasses. Only the soft drip of red wine sliding down the front of a black Italian suit that probably cost more than Sophie made in 6 months. She stood frozen in the center of the private ballroom, surrounded by chandeliers, gold walls, polished marble, and people who had never once looked at her, unless they wanted something cleaned, carried, or corrected. Her fingers still gripped the silver tray. Her heart stopped. The man in front of her did not move. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and terrifyingly still. His black suit hugged him with quiet violence. His dark hair was combed back neatly, his jaw clean-shaven, his eyes cold enough to make the entire room feel colder. Sophie had served wealthy men before. Arrogant men, drunk men, cruel men. But this man was different. He did not need to raise his voice to be dangerous. He did not need to threaten anyone. Danger moved around him like smoke. "I'm sorry," Sophie whispered, her voice barely alive. "I'm so sorry." A woman near the champagne tower gasped as if Sophie had committed murder. 2 men in tuxedos stepped back. A waiter behind her muttered a curse under his breath. Then Caleb Sterling laughed. It was not a loud laugh. It was worse. It was amused. Laissez, cruel. The billionaire owner of the casino stepped forward with a glass of scotch in his hand, his silver hair shining under the chandelier light. His smile was the kind men used when they knew the entire room belonged to them. "Well," Caleb said, looking Sophie up and down, "that is what happens when you let the help serve above their station." Heat climbed Sophie's neck. She stared down at the red stain spreading across the stranger's shirt beneath his jacket. Her hands began to tremble. "I'll pay for the cleaning," she said quickly, though she had no idea how. "I'll work extra shifts." "I didn't mean—" Caleb cut her off with a sigh. "Of course you didn't mean to. Women like you rarely mean to ruin expensive things. You just do." A few people laughed. Softly at first. Then more joined in. Because in rooms like this, cruelty became entertainment when the right man delivered it. Sophie felt the sound enter her chest like broken glass. She had been laughed at before. In the laundry room, when her uniform pulled too tight across her hips. In the service elevator, when guests saw the dark circles under her eyes. At the front desk when rich wives complained that she smelled like bleach instead of perfume. But never like this. Never in front of 100 people. Never while standing before a man who looked like he could end her life with one quiet word. Caleb turned toward the security guards near the door. "Remove her," he said, "and make sure she doesn't work in this city again." Sophie's breath caught. "No," she whispered before she could stop herself. Caleb's eyes returned to her. "No?" Her throat tightened. Her mother's hospital bill flashed through her mind. The rent notice taped inside her kitchen cabinet. The medicine bottle she had counted pill by pill that morning. "I need this job," Sophie said, her voice shaking. "Please." "It was an accident." Caleb smiled wider. "That's the tragedy of people like you, miss." "Sophie," she said quietly. "Miss Sophie." He leaned closer, his voice soft enough to sound intimate and cruel enough to make her stomach twist. "You always need something." The guards started toward her. Sophie stepped back, but there was nowhere to go. Then the man in the stained black suit moved. Not much, only one step. But that single step placed his body between Sophie and the guards. The room changed. The laughter died first. Then the music. Then the air itself. The guards stopped, as if they had walked into an invisible wall. Caleb's smile faded slightly. The stranger looked down at the wine stain on his suit. Then he looked at Sophie's trembling hands. For the first time, his eyes met hers. They were dark, not warm, not gentle, but focused. so focused that Sophie forgot the room around them. He studied her, like she was not a maid, not a mistake, not a problem to be removed, like she was a person. Then he turned his head slowly toward Caleb Sterling. "Apologize to her," he said. His voice was calm, deep, controlled. Caleb blinked. Several people shifted uncomfortably. "I beg your pardon," Caleb said. The stranger took another step forward. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "On your knees." A woman dropped her champagne glass. It shattered somewhere behind Sophie, but no one looked. Caleb's face darkened. "You are a guest in my casino." "No," the stranger said. "I am the reason half the men in this room are still alive." Someone whispered a name. "Roman." Then another voice, lower and afraid. "Roman Viscari." Sophie heard the name pass through the ballroom like a prayer spoken in the wrong church. Roman Viscari, the most feared mafia boss in Nevada. The man investors smiled at in public and prayed, never called them in private. The man whose name hotel staff said only in whispers. The man Sophie had just spilled wine on. Her stomach dropped. Caleb Sterling's jaw tightened. "Roman, let's not make a scene." Roman's expression did not change. "You already made one." Caleb looked around the room. Every billionaire, politician, investor, celebrity, and silent criminal watched him now. Sophie could not breathe. Roman Viscari reached into his jacket. The guard stiffened, but he only removed a white handkerchief and wiped a drop of wine from his wrist. "One apology," he said. "One knee. Then I decide whether this evening continues." Caleb's face turned red. "This is absurd." Roman stepped closer. "No," he said quietly. "Absurd is humiliating a woman because she cannot afford to humiliate you back." The words hit Sophie harder than the laughter had. Her eyes burned. She looked away quickly, ashamed that she wanted to cry. Caleb stared at Roman for a long moment. Then something Sophie never expected to see happened. The richest man in the room lowered himself to one knee. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. Caleb Sterling looked up at Sophie Lane with murder in his eyes and humiliation carved across his face. "I apologize," he said through his teeth. Roman did not look satisfied. He looked bored. "To her," he said. Caleb swallowed. "I apologize, Sophie." Her name sounded poisoned in his mouth. Sophie stood behind Roman Viscari, shaking so hard she feared the tray would fall from her hands. Roman turned slightly, his gaze landing on her again. "You may go," he said softly. She blinked. "What?" "You do not need to stand here while wolves pretend to be civilized." Her breath trembled. She should have thanked him. She should have run. Instead, she stared at him, because no powerful man had ever protected her without making her feel smaller. Roman's eyes held hers for one dangerous second longer. Then he turned back to Caleb. Sophie walked away with every eye in the ballroom burning into her back. And she knew, with a cold certainty that settled deep in her bones, that Roman Viscari had not saved her. He had marked her here, not with his hands, not with his name, but with his attention. And in Las Vegas, attention from a man like Roman was never safe. Sophie made it to the service corridor before her knees nearly gave out. The moment the ballroom doors shut behind her, sound returned to the world. Her own breathing, the distant bass of music through the walls, the squeak of her shoes against polished floor. A kitchen worker named Maria grabbed her arm near the linen closet. "Sophie," Maria whispered, eyes wide. "What happened?" "I spilled wine," Sophie said. "On Roman Viscari?" Sophie pressed a hand to her stomach. "I didn't know who he was." Maria looked toward the ballroom doors, as if Roman might appear through them. "Girl, nobody spills wine on Roman Viscari and walks away." "I did." "No," Maria said quietly. "You walked away because he let you." That should have made Sophie feel protected. Instead, it made her feel trapped. She returned to the employee locker room, changed out of her wine-splattered apron, and tried not to think about the way Roman had looked at her hands instead of his ruined suit. By midnight, her supervisor had already received the order. Suspended. Pending review. No pay. Sophie stood under the fluorescent lights while Mr. Ellison, the night manager, avoided looking her in the eye. "You understand the position this puts us in," he said. "I understand," Caleb Sterling embarrassed himself, "and want someone poorer than him to punish." Mr. Ellison flinched. Sophie had never said anything like that at work before. She could not afford to. But something about kneeling billionaires changed the shape of fear. "Sophie," he warned gently, "don't make this worse. My mother's medication is due Friday. I'm sorry." "No, you're not." He said nothing. That was the worst part, not the cruelty. Sophie understood cruelty. It was the silence of people who knew something was wrong and still chose their paycheck over their spine. She left the casino through the employee exit at 1:13 a.m., wearing her old beige coat and carrying a canvas bag with her uniform inside. Las Vegas glowed around her in neon pinks and electric blues. Tourists laughed on the sidewalk. A drunk couple kissed near a fountain. Somewhere, slot machines sang their endless metallic lullaby. Sophie walked toward the bus stop behind the hotel, trying to calculate how many shifts at her second job she would need to cover the suspension. Then she saw the black car. It waited at the curb like a shadow. Long, polished, silent. A man in a dark suit stood beside the rear door. Sophie stopped walking. The man inclined his head. "Miss Lane." Her blood went cold. "No." The man blinked once. "Excuse me? I don't know what you're about to offer, but no." The rear window lowered. Roman Vescari sat inside the car. The city lights traced the hard line of his cheekbone. He had changed his shirt, but not his expression. He looked exactly as he had in the ballroom, calm, untouchable, and entirely too focused. "Get in," he said. Sophie laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "No." His eyes narrowed slightly. Most people probably did not refuse him. Most people probably did not know how. But Sophie was tired. Too tired to be careful. Too tired to perform gratitude for a man who had turned her humiliation into a power move. "With all due respect," she said, though her tone held none, "I'm not getting into a car with a mafia boss at 1 a.m. The driver looked offended. Roman did not. He studied her for a moment, then opened the door and stepped out. Sophie's body reacted before her pride could stop it. She stepped back. Roman noticed. Something flickered in his eyes. Not hurt. Not softness. Control. He stopped several feet away. "I did not come to frighten you. Then you should have sent someone less frightening." The corner of his mouth moved slightly. Almost a smile. "Almost. I came to make sure you got home safely. I've been getting home safely for years without you. Tonight is different. Because you made Caleb Sterling kneel in front of rich people? Because Caleb Sterling will need someone to blame for the shame he feels." Sophie hated that he was right. Still, she lifted her chin. "I'm not your responsibility." "No," Roman said. "You are not." The answer surprised her. She expected him to argue, to insist, to command. Instead, he reached into his jacket slowly and removed a small black card. The same motion had made armed men freeze earlier. Now he held the card between two fingers and extended it toward her. "My number." Sophie looked at it, then at him. "I don't need it." "You may." "I won't call." "I know." "Then why give it to me?" Roman's eyes held hers. "Because one day you will be in a room where every exit is blocked, and when that happens, pride will not open the door. I will." The words should have sounded arrogant. They did. But beneath the arrogance was something else, a certainty so deep it felt like a promise. Sophie took the card because refusing would keep him standing there longer, and she wanted very badly to stop feeling the weight of his attention. Their fingers did not touch. Roman made sure of it. That unsettled her more than if he had tried. He stepped back. The driver opened the door. Sophie expected Roman to get in and disappear. Instead, he said, "The bus you take stops running in 12 minutes. Walk faster." Her mouth fell open. "How do you know what bus I take?" Roman looked down the street where the bus sign flickered beneath a dying light. "It is the only one that runs past the employee exit at this hour." For some reason, that answer embarrassed her. Not because it was invasive, because it was observant, because he had noticed the world she lived in. She turned away before he could see her confusion. "Good night, Mr. Viscari." "Roman." She stopped. "That's not happening. This time." He almost smiled. "Good night, Sophie." She hated the way her name sounded in his voice. Not poisoned, not small, important. She walked to the bus stop without looking back. But when the bus arrived, she glanced through the window. The black car was still there, not following, not leaving, just waiting until the bus pulled away. And for the first time in a long time, Sophie did not feel invisible. She felt seen, which was far more dangerous. By morning, Sophie's suspension had become termination. The email arrived at 6:42 a.m., right as she stood in her tiny kitchen, pouring instant coffee into a chipped mug. Effective, immediately. Violation of service standards. Endangerment of guest relations. No severance. No reference. She read the email 3 times before her vision blurred. Her apartment was small. 1 bedroom with cracked tiles, a noisy heater, and a window that faced the brick wall of another building. Her mother's pill organizer sat on the counter beside a stack of unopened medical bills. Sophie's phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Payment overdue. She closed her eyes. For 10 seconds, she let herself break. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just one hand over her mouth, one palm flat against the counter, her shoulders trembling beneath the weight of everything she could not afford to lose. Then she washed her face, changed into jeans and a sweater, and went to the hospital. Her mother, Elaine Lane, was asleep when Sophie arrived. The machines beside the bed hummed softly. Pale morning light filtered through the blinds, washing the room in gray. Sophie sat beside her and took her hand. "I messed up," she whispered. Elaine's eyes opened slowly. Even sick, Sophie's mother could read her face like a book. "Oh, baby. I lost the hotel job." Elaine squeezed her fingers weakly. "We'll figure it out." Sophie laughed softly, but it came out broken. People said that when they had no idea how, she stayed for an hour, pretending not to panic every time a nurse walked past with paperwork. When she left the hospital room, 2 men in suits were waiting near the elevators. Sophie stopped. One of them was Roman's driver from the night before. "Miss Lane?" he said. "No. You have not heard what I'm going to say." "I don't need to." "The answer is no." The second man exchanged a glance with the first. Then, a familiar voice spoke behind them. "Move." The men stepped aside instantly. Roman Viscari stood at the end of the corridor, dressed in a charcoal suit beneath a black overcoat. He looked completely wrong under hospital lighting. Too powerful. Too dark. Too controlled for a place where people cried into vending machine coffee. Sophie felt anger rise before fear could take root. "You cannot show up here." "I can. Don't correct me like I work for you." "You do not work for anyone now." The words hit too close. Her eyes narrowed. "So you heard." "I heard Sterling fired you before sunrise." "And did you come to enjoy the consequences of your performance last night?" Something cold passed through his face. "My performance? You didn't defend me because you cared. You did it because Caleb insulted you by insulting someone in your vicinity." Roman's gaze sharpened. "You think I made him kneel for my pride. I think men like you don't do anything unless it feeds your power." For a moment, the hallway seemed to hold its breath. His men looked away. Roman stepped closer, then stopped before he entered her space. "You are not wrong about men like me," he said quietly. "But you are wrong about last night." Sophie hated that his calm made her feel reckless. "Then why are you here?" "To offer you a position." She laughed. "No, you have not heard. I'm not becoming your maid." A muscle moved in his jaw. "I was going to offer you work at a hotel I own. Same position, higher pay, better hours, no contact with me unless you request it." That silenced her. For one dangerous second, the offer opened in her mind like a door. Higher pay, better hours, medication covered, rent stable, her mother safe. Then she imagined accepting help from Roman Vescari. She imagined the invisible chain that would come with it. "No," she said. Roman watched her. "You would rather struggle?" "I would rather struggle standing." His eyes darkened, but not with anger, with fascination. Pride is expensive. So are men who think kindness is a transaction. For the first time, Roman looked almost struck. Sophie turned toward the elevator, but he spoke again. "Sterling did not only fire you." Her hand froze near the button. "He sent your name to every major hotel group on the Strip. By noon, no luxury property in Las Vegas will hire you." Her stomach dropped. Roman continued, voice controlled. "He also filed an internal complaint accusing you of intentional misconduct." Sophie turned slowly. "What?" "He wants you afraid enough to leave the city, or desperate enough to apologize publicly." The hallway tilted slightly. "That's insane." "Yes, he can't do that. He can do many things." Sophie looked at Roman's face, searching for manipulation. "You knew this would happen." "I expected it." "And you didn't stop it?" His eyes hardened. "I can stop bullets. I can stop men. I cannot stop a coward from using paperwork before he sends it." The truth of that made her angrier because it felt too real. Roman reached into his coat and removed a folder. "My attorney has already prepared a response. You can use it without owing me anything." Sophie stared at the folder. No gifts. No flowers. No jewelry. A legal response. Something practical. Something she needed. Her throat tightened. "I said I don't want your help. I heard you. Then why keep offering?" Roman's gaze moved briefly toward the hospital room where her mother slept. When he looked back, his voice was lower. "Because last night, you stood in a room full of people who laughed while you were terrified, and not one of them cared whether you survived the morning." Sophie swallowed. His words were too precise, too close to the wound. "I don't need pity." "No," he said. "You need ammunition." She looked at the folder again. Then at him. "You're not a good man." "No." "Then why are you doing this?" Roman took a long breath. For the first time, he looked away first. "I have been asking myself the same question." The elevator doors opened. Sophie stepped inside without the folder. Roman did not follow, but just before the doors closed, he said, "Sterling is not finished with you." The doors slid shut. Sophie leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. The black card burned inside her coat pocket. She hated that she still had it. She hated more that she felt safer knowing it was there. Caleb Sterling's next move came that afternoon. By 3 p.m., Sophie's face was circulating through employee message groups across Las Vegas. A blurry screenshot from the casino ballroom. Her standing with the spilled wine. Roman Vescari in front of her. Caleb Sterling on 1T. The caption changed, depending on who shared it. "Maid seduces Mafia boss after casino scandal." "Hotel worker causes billionaire humiliation." Roman Vescari's new girl. By evening, strangers had found her social media. By night, reporters were outside her apartment building. Sophie stood behind her curtain, watching cameras flash in the parking lot below. Her phone buzzed until she turned it off. Maria had called 7 times. Mr. Ellison twice. Unknown numbers filled the screen. Then someone threw a rock through her living room window. Glass exploded inward. Sophie screamed and dropped to the floor. Cold night air rushed into the apartment. A folded note, landed among the glass. She crawled toward it with shaking hands. 2 words were written in black ink. Apologize publicly. Her first instinct was to call the police. Her second was to laugh, because men like Caleb Sterling owned men like that too. Then, headlights flooded the broken window. Not police lights. Black SUVs. 3 of them. Doors opened below. Men in dark suits moved with terrifying coordination. Sophie's phone rang. Unknown number. She knew before answering. "What did you do?" she whispered. Roman's voice came through calm and controlled. "I sent protection. I didn't ask for protection." "No, you asked for nothing. That has become inconvenient. There are reporters outside. They will leave." "Did you send them too?" A pause. Then, colder. "No." Sophie's breath shook. Someone knocked on her apartment door. She grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter. Roman's voice sharpened. "Sophie, how do you know someone is at my door?" "My men are at your door." She froze. Another knock. "Miss Lane," a voice called. "Mr. Viscari sent us." Sophie backed away. "I can't do this." "Yes, you can." "No, you don't understand. People like Caleb don't just ruin jobs. They ruin lives. My mother is in a hospital bed. I have nowhere to go. I have no money for lawyers, no security, no family with power. I am 1 bad week away from losing everything." Her voice broke on the last word. Silence. Then Roman said, very quietly, "Open the door." Something in his tone changed. "Not command. Not manipulation. Foul." Sophie opened the door. 2 men stood there. One older, one younger. Both armed, though they tried not to make it obvious. "Miss Lane," the older one said gently, "we need to move you away from the windows." "I'm not leaving with you." "You do not have to leave," he said. "But the glass needs to be secured." Sophie looked past them down the hallway. No Roman. Of course not. She did not know whether she was relieved or disappointed. His men moved efficiently. One stayed by the door. Another covered the window with temporary board and heavy tape. A third escorted the reporters away without touching them, without shouting, without visible threats. Within 15 minutes, the parking lot emptied. Within 20, Sophie's apartment felt less exposed. Within 30, Roman Viscari arrived. He did not storm in. He knocked. That almost undid her. Sophie opened the door, still holding the kitchen knife. Roman's eyes dropped to it, then back to her face. "Good," he said. She frowned. "You're complimenting my knife?" "I am complimenting your instinct. I could stab you." "Yes? You don't seem worried." "If you intended to stab me, you would not be warning me." She hated that he made sense. He stepped inside only when she moved aside. The apartment suddenly looked smaller with him in it, not because he judged it. He did not look around with disgust or pity. That was worse. He looked at everything as if every crack, every unpaid bill, every second-hand chair told him something he would remember. Sophie crossed her arms. "You need to leave. You need to pack." "No." "Sophie." "No," she snapped. "You do not get to appear with SUVs and orders and decide where I sleep." Roman looked at the broken window, then at the note on the floor, then at her. "Sterling sent men to scare you tonight. Tomorrow he may send men who do not stop at glass." Fear moved through her so sharply she had to look away. Roman's voice lowered. "You can hate me from somewhere secure." That almost made her smile. Almost. "I'm not staying in your house. Not my house. A private residence with staff. Separate rooms. My men outside. You may leave whenever you wish." "And my mother?" "Already guarded." Sophie's head snapped up. "What?" "2 men at the hospital. Discreet. No one enters her room without clearance." Anger and relief collided so violently that tears burned her eyes. "You had no right." "No," Roman said. I had no time. She stared at him. He did not apologize. Somehow that made him easier to believe. Men who apologized too quickly usually wanted forgiveness they had not earned. Roman simply stood there, accepting her fury like weather. I don't trust you, she said. I know. I am not yours. His eyes darkened. No, he said softly. You are not. The way he said it should have comforted her. Instead, it made the room feel warmer, closer, more dangerous. Sophie looked at the boarded window, the note, the glass, the life she had been barely holding together before one spilled glass of wine turned it inside out. Then she looked at Roman Viscari. I leave when I want. Yes. You don't touch me. His jaw tightened once, never without permission. You don't pay my mother's bills. Pause. Sophie. No, that is not negotiable. His eyes held hers. Fine. You don't lie to me. That one changed him. Not much, but enough. A shadow passed through his face. I will not lie to you about anything that concerns your safety. Sophie noticed the careful wording. What are you hiding? Roman stepped closer, stopping just outside her reach. The kind of truth that gets innocent people killed. Her hand tightened around the knife. Then maybe I should know it. Not yet. The answer should have made her refuse. Instead, it confirmed something she had already feared. This was bigger than a stained suit. Bigger than Caleb's pride. Bigger than her. Sophie packed one bag. Roman carried it without asking. And when they walked out of the apartment, cameras flashed from across the street where one remaining reporter hid behind a car. Roman moved instantly, not toward the reporter, toward Sophie. He stepped beside her, blocking the lens with his body, one hand hovering near her back but never touching. Keep walking, he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes promised violence. Sophie walked beside him into the night. For the first time, she understood the strange terror of being protected by a man who could destroy anything that came close, and the stranger terror of wanting, just for one breath, to lean into it. The private residence was not a house. It was a glass mansion on the edge of the desert, hidden behind iron gates and cypress trees, far from the neon hunger of the strip. Sophie stepped out of the SUV and stared. Absolutely not. Roman stood beside her. You said that already. I'm saying it again with more architectural context. His mouth almost moved. The mansion glowed with warm interior light. Beyond it, the desert stretched black and endless beneath a sky full of hard silver stars. Inside, everything was too quiet, too expensive. Marble floors, dark wood, floor-to-ceiling windows. A staircase that curved like something from a movie. Sophie stood in the foyer, clutching her canvas bag, and feeling like a stain someone had forgotten to clean. Roman's housekeeper, Mrs. Bell, greeted her with kind eyes and no questions. That helped. A little. You'll be in the East Guest Suite, Mrs. Bell said. There are clothes if you need anything, but no one will enter your room without permission. Sophie looked at Roman. He stood near the door, speaking quietly with one of his men. He had not touched her, had not crowded her, had not asked for gratitude. Somehow, that made everything harder. Mrs. Bell led Sophie upstairs to a bedroom larger than her entire apartment. Cream walls, soft lamps, a bed with white linens, a balcony overlooking the desert. There were fresh towels in the bathroom, a phone charger beside the bed, a lock on the door. Sophie checked it twice. Then she sat on the edge of the mattress and cried silently into her hands. Not because she was weak, because she had been strong for so long that safety felt like a trick. An hour later, there was a knock. Sophie wiped her face. Who is it? Roman. Her heart changed rhythm. I'm tired. I know. She waited. He did not try the door. Did not command. Did not leave either. What do you want? She asked. To tell you your mother is safe. She has eaten. Her nurse says she is asking for you. Sophie closed her eyes. Relief went through her so sharply it hurt. Thank you. A pause. You are welcome. She thought he would leave. He did not. Sophie? Yes? Sterling will release another story tomorrow. Her eyes opened. What kind of story? The kind designed to make you ashamed enough to disappear. She stood and walked to the door, opening it just a few inches. Roman stood in the hallway, one hand in his pocket, his jacket removed, his black shirt rolled at the sleeves. The wine stain was gone, but she could still see it. What story? She asked. His gaze dropped briefly to her eyes, red from crying. Something dangerous softened and hardened at once. He will imply you and I were involved before last night. That you staged the incident. That you were paid. Sophie laughed. Hollow. Of course. I will shut it down. How? Publicly. No. Sophie. No. I am not becoming a headline in a war between two powerful men. You already are. Then stop making it worse. Roman's eyes flashed. I am trying to keep you alive. And I am trying to keep what little dignity I have left. The words landed between them. Roman said nothing for a long moment. Then he nodded once. What would you have me do? She blinked. No one with power had asked her that in a long time. Maybe ever. I want the truth, she said. Which truth? The one you keep stepping around. Roman's expression closed. Sophie laughed softly. There it is. You are safer not knowing. I was safer before I spilled wine on you. No, he said. The certainty in his voice chilled her. She opened the door wider. What does that mean? Roman looked down the hallway, then back at her. It means Sterling did not target you because of the wine. Her pulse slowed. What? The wine made you visible, but you were already useful to him. Sophie's mouth went dry. I'm a maid. You clean private rooms. You enter spaces other people cannot. You see what wealthy men forget to hide. I don't know anything. You may have seen something without understanding it. She thought back through weeks of suites, offices, private lounges, dirty glasses, discarded receipts, lipstick on crystal, pills crushed into carpets. Nothing. Everything. What did I see? Roman's voice lowered. 3 nights ago, you cleaned Sterling's private gaming salon after a closed meeting. Did you find a black velvet envelope? Sophie frowned. Memory came slowly. A room heavy with cigar smoke, cards scattered on the table, a broken cufflink near the bar, a black envelope beneath a chair. I gave it to Lost and Found. Roman's jaw tightened. What was in it? I didn't open it. Did anyone see you take it? I don't know. His expression changed completely. The cold man returned. Not at her. Around her. Like armor locking into place. Sophie, he said carefully, that envelope contained financial records connecting Caleb Sterling to money laundering, political bribery, and at least 3 disappearances. Her skin went cold. No. Yes. I gave it to Lost and Found. It never arrived. I signed the log. The log was altered. Sophie stepped back. The hallway seemed to tilt. Roman moved as if to steady her, then stopped himself. His hand lowered slowly. She saw the restraint, felt it more than any touch. Why didn't you tell me? Because the moment you understood what you had touched, your fear would change. Fear is readable. By who? By men like Sterling. A silence stretched between them. Then Sophie whispered, He thinks I still have it. Yes, but I don't. I believe you. She searched his face. Why? Because you were terrified when you spilled wine on me, but not guilty. Her throat tightened. You noticed that? I notice everything in rooms where people pretend not to bleed. The line should not have moved her. It did, because it sounded less like a threat and more like confession. Sophie leaned against the doorframe. So now what? Now, Sterling will try to break you before he realizes you do not have what he wants. And if he realizes, Roman's eyes turned black, then he will try to erase you. The words settled in the hallway like smoke. Sophie should have slammed the door. Instead, she asked, "And what will you do?" Roman looked at her for a long time. "When he comes for you," he said, "I will become exactly what men like him believe I am." She should have been horrified. Part of her was, but another part, the exhausted part, the part that had been mocked and cornered and fired and shattered, felt something dangerously close to relief. Roman saw it. His voice softened by 1 degree. "Do not confuse my violence with goodness." Sophie met his eyes. "Do not confuse my fear with weakness." For the first time, Roman Viscari smiled. Not kindly, not fully, but as if she had surprised him in a way he wanted to experience again. "Good night, Sophie." He walked away. She shut the door and locked it. But long after the mansion went quiet, Sophie stood in the dark, staring at the desert outside her window, wondering what kind of woman started feeling safe in the house of a monster, and what kind of monster knocked before entering. The next 3 days moved like a fever. Caleb released the story. The media devoured it. Sophie Lane became a name strangers debated over breakfast. Some called her a gold digger. Some called her a victim. Some said Roman Viscari had finally found a weakness. That word followed her everywhere. Weakness. Roman hated it. Sophie could tell because every time someone said it on television, the room grew colder. He never yelled, never threw anything, but his silence sharpened. From the mansion library, Sophie watched him take calls in Italian, English, and sometimes a language she did not recognize. He moved through crisis like a man born inside storms. Men came and went. Lawyers, security chiefs. One senator who looked pale when he left. Roman did not include Sophie in his world, but he did not hide her away like an embarrassment either. He gave her access to the garden, the library, the kitchen, the secure phone line to call her mother, and the freedom to refuse him at every turn. She refused often. When he sent breakfast to her room, she brought it downstairs and ate in the kitchen with Mrs. Bell. When he offered a driver to the hospital, she asked for Maria to come with her. When he had a doctor review Elaine's chart, Sophie demanded the doctor explain everything to her first. Roman allowed all of it. That unsettled her more than control would have. Because control, she understood. Respect felt suspicious. On the 4th night, Sophie found him in the library. Rain moved over the windows, rare and soft, turning the desert glassy black. Roman stood by the fireplace with a drink untouched in his hand. "You look like a villain in a movie," Sophie said from the doorway. He turned. "And you walk into rooms too quietly for someone who claims to fear me." "I do fear you." "Not enough." She stepped inside. "Maybe I'm learning the difference between fear and instinct." His eyes stayed on her. "That difference gets people killed. So does trusting no one." Roman looked back toward the fire. Sophie walked to the bookshelf, running her fingers over the spines. First editions, poetry, history, books in languages she couldn't read. "You actually read these?" "Some." "Which ones?" "The ones with unhappy endings." She glanced at him. "Of course." His mouth shifted. "You disapprove?" "I think men like you probably enjoy tragic endings because they don't require change." Roman's eyes returned to her. For a moment, something moved beneath the surface. Something old. Something wounded. "You speak very freely for a woman in my house. You said I could leave whenever I wanted." "You can. Then I'm not trapped." "No. Then I'm not your prisoner." His gaze dropped briefly to her mouth. "No." The air changed. Not obviously. Nothing dramatic happened. No music swelled. No thunder cracked. But Sophie felt the space between them become aware of itself. Roman set his drink down. Slowly. As if sudden movement might break something neither of them had named. "You should go upstairs," he said. Her pulse quickened. "Why?" "Because I'm trying to remember the rules you gave me." The room became too warm. Sophie should have walked out. Instead, she said, "You remember them." Yes. Then what's the problem? Roman looked at her fully. The problem is that I remember your hands shaking in that ballroom. I remember Sterling looking at you like you were disposable. I remember you standing in your apartment with a knife, pretending you were not afraid. I remember every time you say no to me like it costs you nothing. His voice lowered, and I am beginning to dislike how much I remember. Sophie's breath caught. No man had ever spoken desire to her like that. Not as flattery, not as hunger only, as disturbance, as inconvenience, as something powerful enough to anger him. She gripped the bookshelf behind her. I'm not easy, she whispered. Roman's eyes darkened. I know. I don't fall for men because they protect me. I know. I don't belong in your world. No, he said. You make it look worse by comparison. The words struck deeper than compliments would have. Sophie looked away first. That felt like losing. Roman stepped closer. Only one step, still plenty of space between them, but enough for her to smell rain on his clothes and cedar from the fire. Look at me, he said, softly, not commanding, asking without the shape of a question. She did. His expression was controlled, but his eyes were not. For the first time, Sophie saw the denial. He did not want this. Not because he didn't want her, because he did. And wanting her made him less untouchable. I will not touch you, he said. But if you stay in this room, Sophie, I will want to. Her heart pounded. She should have hated him for saying it. She should have run. Instead, she felt the honesty of it move through her like heat. She left, not because she wanted to, because some doors, once opened, could not be closed gently. At the stairs, she looked back. Roman still stood by the fire, one hand clenched at his side, a man feared by the entire city, obeying a rule given by a hotel maid. Sophie went upstairs with trembling knees. That night she dreamed of red wine, black suits, and a hand that almost touched her but stopped. The betrayal came from the one place Sophie thought was still hers. Maria. It happened the following afternoon at the hospital. Sophie had insisted on visiting her mother in person. Roman allowed it, though his jaw made it clear the decision displeased him. 2 guards waited outside Elaine's room. Maria met Sophie in the cafeteria with coffee and tears in her eyes. I was so worried, Maria said, hugging her tightly. Sophie closed her eyes and hugged back. For a few minutes, she felt almost normal. 2 women at a hospital table. Bad coffee. Shared fear. Then Maria slid a phone across the table. What is this? Sophie asked. Just watch. The video was shaky, dark. A man's voice spoke off camera. Roman's voice. Sophie recognized it instantly. Then, another voice. Caleb Sterling. The footage showed a warehouse. Roman standing over a man kneeling on the concrete. Blood on the floor. A gun in Roman's hand. Sophie's stomach turned. Caleb's voice came through the speaker. You always did enjoy hurting people weaker than you, Roman. Roman replied, cold and empty, only when they forget what they owe. Then the video cut off. Sophie looked up. Maria's face was pale. Someone sent it to me this morning, Maria whispered. They said you needed to know who you're staying with. Sophie pushed the phone back. I know who he is. No, Maria said, tears filling her eyes. You don't. Sophie, they said the man in the video was a hotel worker, like us. The cafeteria noise faded. What? They said he disappeared after stealing from Roman. Sophie stood so quickly the chair scraped backward. No, I don't know if it's true. Who sent it? I don't know. A blocked number. Sophie's mind raced. Roman had told her he was not good. He had told her not to confuse violence with goodness. But a hotel worker? Someone poor? Someone like her? The thought made her chest tighten. She left the cafeteria without finishing the coffee. By the time she returned to the mansion, fear had turned into anger because anger was easier to survive. Roman was in his office. Sophie walked in without knocking. His men moved to stop her. Roman lifted one hand. They froze. Sophie threw Maria's phone onto his desk. Explain it. Roman looked at the paused video. Something closed in his expression. Not guilt. Recognition. Where did you get this? Explain it. His gaze lifted to hers. That video is 6 years old. I didn't ask when it was. I asked what it was. The man kneeling was not a hotel worker. Then what was he? Roman said nothing. Sophie laughed once. But there was no humor in it. There it is again. The truth that gets innocent people killed. His eyes sharpened. You do not understand what you are looking at. Then help me understand. I cannot, or will not. Sophie? No. Her voice broke, and she hated it. Do not say my name like that. Do not stand there after bringing me into your house, protecting my mother, looking at me like I matter, and then expect me to accept half-truths because your world is complicated. Roman rose slowly from his chair. My world is not complicated. It is brutal. Then, why am I in it? The question hit harder than she expected. Roman went still. Sophie's eyes burned. Am I a witness? A liability? A symbol? Something you rescued because Caleb embarrassed you? Or am I just another thing you don't want Sterling to take? Roman came around the desk. She stepped back. He stopped immediately. Pain flickered across his face so fast she almost missed it. You think I would use you? I think men like you call it protection when they mean possession. His jaw tightened. And you think I would possess you by force? I don't know what you would do. The silence after that was devastating. Roman looked at her like she had struck him. Not because the accusation offended his pride, because some part of him feared she was right. When he spoke, his voice was low. The man in the video was a trafficker who used Sterling's hotels to move girls across state lines. He wore a hotel uniform because Sterling gave him one. He was not poor. He was not innocent. And by the time I found him, 3 women were already dead. Sophie's breath stopped. Roman's eyes were hard now, not defensive, haunted. I did hurt him. I would do it again. The room seemed to darken. Why didn't you tell me? Because I did not want you looking at me the way you are looking at me now. The honesty disarmed her. Roman looked away. I can survive fear. I can survive hatred. I have survived both from better people than Caleb Sterling. His voice lowered. I did not want it from you. Sophie's anger cracked. But before she could speak, Roman's phone rang. He looked at the screen. His entire face changed. What? He answered. A pause. Then every man in the room seemed to sharpen. Roman's eyes moved to Sophie. Lock down the hospital, he said into the phone. Sophie went cold. What happened? Roman ended the call. Your mother's room was approached by a man dressed as a nurse. My guard stopped him. Sophie's hand flew to her mouth. Is she okay? Yes. I need to go. No. The word was immediate. Absolute. Sophie stared at him. Move. Sophie, listen to me. My mother is safe because my men stopped him. If you go now, you give Sterling exactly what he wants. I don't care what he wants. Roman stepped closer, controlled but intense. I do. Get out of my way. No. The air cracked. His refusal hit every fear she had, every warning, every reason she should never have entered his car, his house, his world. You said I could leave whenever I wanted. Roman's face went pale beneath his controlled expression. I did. Then move. His men looked at him. For one long second, Sophie thought he would refuse. She saw the war inside him, the protector, the possessor, the man who could command anything except her trust. Then Roman stepped aside. The movement cost him. She could see it. But he did it. Sophie walked past him. At the door, his voice stopped her. If you leave now, I cannot protect you the same way. She looked back, tears in her eyes. Maybe I need to remember how to protect myself. She left the mansion with one guard, trailing her at a distance, she demanded. Roman did not follow. That hurt more than if he had. Sophie never made it to the hospital. The SUV was hit 2 blocks from the main road. Not by accident. A white delivery van slammed into the passenger side with enough force to spin the vehicle across the wet pavement. Sophie's head struck the window. Metal screamed. Glass burst. The guard in front cursed and reached for his weapon. Then men in grey masks surrounded the wreck. Everything happened in fragments. Rain on the windshield, blood on the driver's temple, a hand pulling Sophie from the back seat, her knee hitting asphalt, a cloth over her mouth, the smell of chemicals, the black card falling from her coat pocket into the gutter, Roman's number disappearing beneath rainwater. When Sophie woke, she was tied to a chair beneath crystal chandeliers. For one disoriented moment, she thought she was back in the Sterling Crown ballroom. Then she realized she was somewhere worse. A private casino salon. No windows, red walls, gold ceiling, a poker table stained with old cigar burns. Caleb Sterling sat across from her, drinking scotch. His face still bore the memory of kneeling. "Miss Sophie," he said warmly, "you have caused me an extraordinary amount of trouble." Sophie's mouth was dry. Her wrists burned against the rope. "If you hurt my mother, your mother is alive. For now." Rage cut through the fear. Caleb smiled. "There she is, Roman's little maid with a spine. I'm not Roman's anything." "No?" He leaned forward. "That is unfortunate, because he is certainly yours." Sophie said nothing. Caleb studied her, amused. "I've known Roman Viscari for 15 years. I have watched men beg him, betray him, bleed for him. I have seen women try to catch his eye wearing diamonds worth more than your apartment building." His smile faded. "And then you spill wine on him, tremble like a frightened animal, and suddenly he risks a war." Sophie's heart pounded. "He doesn't care about me." Caleb laughed softly. "You poor girl. You still think care is gentle." He stood and walked behind her chair. Sophie forced herself not to flinch. "Roman cares the way men like him care. Destructively, possessively, completely. He will burn down half this city tonight if I ask correctly. What do you want?" "The envelope." "I don't have it." "Yes, I know that now." Sophie went still. Caleb leaned close to her ear. "But Roman does not know I know." Cold moved through her. "You're using me." "Of course." "For what?" Caleb walked back into view. "For a signature. A surrender. A very old debt between kings." The door opened. A large screen on the wall flickered to life. Roman appeared on it. He stood somewhere dark, rain sliding off his black coat, his face carved from fury. For the first time since Sophie had met him, he did not look controlled. He looked lethal. "Sophie," he said. Her chest cracked at the sound of her name. "I'm okay," she lied. Roman's eyes moved over her face, her wrists, the bruise near her temple. Whatever he saw changed him. Caleb stepped into frame beside Sophie. "She is alive," he said. For now. Roman did not look at him, only at Sophie. "Did he touch you?" The question was quiet, more terrifying than shouting. Sophie swallowed. "No." Roman finally looked at Caleb. "You have one chance to return her." Caleb smiled. "Still giving orders while she's tied to my chair. That is why I always admired you, Roman. Your arrogance survives even obvious defeat. What do you want?" "Transfer control of the Mirage Harbor development to me. Publicly withdraw your challenge to my gaming license. Deliver the evidence you stole from my envelope. Then disappear from Las Vegas for 1 year." Roman stared at him. "No." Caleb grabbed Sophie's hair and yanked her head back. Pain shot across her scalp. Roman moved closer to the screen. "Take your hand off her." Caleb's smile widened. "There he is." Sophie saw it then. The trap was not the contract. It was Roman's rage. Caleb wanted him uncontrolled, violent, public, guilty. Roman, Sophie said, forcing her voice steady. Don't. His eyes snapped to hers. For one breath, the room disappeared. She saw him in the hallway, stepping aside so she could leave. In the library, obeying her rules. At the ballroom, looking at her hands. Do not give him everything because of me, she said. Caleb tightened his grip. Roman's face went cold enough to kill. She is not a bargaining chip, he said. Caleb laughed. No, Roman. She is much worse. He leaned toward the camera. She is proof you can be made human. The screen went black. Caleb released Sophie's hair. She sucked in a breath. You don't understand him, she said. Caleb raised an eyebrow. I understand men like Roman perfectly. No, Sophie whispered, you understand his violence, not his restraint. For the first time, Caleb's smile faltered. Then the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. A second later, gunfire erupted outside the door. Caleb cursed. Sophie's heart slammed against her ribs. Men shouted. Glass shattered. Emergency red lights flickered on, bathing the salon in blood-colored light. The door exploded inward. Roman Vescari entered through smoke and splintered wood, like something built from wrath. His black coat was wet from rain. Blood marked one side of his face, though Sophie could not tell if it was his. A gun rested in his hand, steady and low. Behind him, men moved with silent precision. But Sophie saw only Roman. His eyes found hers. Everything in him changed. The violence did not disappear. It redirected. Sophie, he said. Caleb grabbed her from behind, pressing a knife to her throat. Roman stopped. Every man in the room stopped. The red emergency lights flickered. Rain hammered somewhere above them. Sophie felt the blade against her skin. Drop the gun, Caleb said. Roman did. Immediately, the weapon hit the floor. Sophie's eyes filled. Caleb laughed breathlessly. Oh, this is beautiful. Roman stood very still. His gaze remained on Sophie's face. Not the knife. Not Caleb. Here. Are you hurt? He asked. Sophie almost broke. You dropped your gun. I asked if you were hurt. Caleb pressed the blade closer. She will be if you move. Roman's eyes finally shifted to him. I do not need to move to kill you. Caleb's smile twitched. You think this is romance? You think she'll love you after seeing what you are? Roman's voice was quiet. No. That single word hurt more than Sophie expected. Roman continued. I think if she lives, she can hate me safely. That is enough. Sophie stared at him. Something inside her gave way. Not fear, not love exactly. Something between them. A truth too dangerous to name in a room full of guns. Caleb looked disgusted. You would lose everything for a maid. Roman's eyes did not leave Sophie. No. He took one slow step forward. I would lose everything for Sophie. Caleb's hand trembled. That was all Roman needed. A shot cracked from somewhere behind the ceiling vent. Caleb screamed as the knife flew from his hand. Roman moved faster than Sophie could breathe. He caught Caleb by the throat, slammed him against the poker table, and drove him down so hard the Scotch glass shattered beside his head. Men flooded the room. Sophie's ropes were cut. She tried to stand, but her legs failed. Roman caught her before she hit the floor. For 1 second, his arms closed around her. Solid, warm, shaking. Roman Vescari was shaking. Sophie, he breathed. She pressed her hand to his chest. His heart was racing. The untouchable man had a heartbeat after all. I'm okay, she whispered. His hand lifted toward her face, then stopped. Even now, even here, covered in blood and rain and fury, he remembered. Sophie looked at him through tears. You can touch me. His control broke quietly, not violently, not greedily. His hand cupped her cheek with such restraint that it hurt. His thumb brushed the bruise near her temple. His eyes closed for half a second. I should have followed you, he said. You let me leave. I almost didn't. I know. His eyes opened. The confession sat between them. Ugly, honest, human. Across the room, Caleb groaned. Roman's face hardened. He started to turn. Sophie caught his wrist. Don't kill him. Roman looked back at her. He took you. I know. He hurt you. I know. He will not stop. Sophie's fingers tightened around his wrist. Then don't become his proof. For a long moment, Roman said nothing. Everyone watched him. His men. Caleb's men. Sophie. The old Roman would have ended Caleb Sterling on that floor. The old Roman would have called it justice. The man Sophie held by the wrist looked at the billionaire who had humiliated her, hunted her, and nearly killed her. Then he lowered his hand. Call the federal contact, Roman said to his lieutenant. Give them everything. Caleb laughed weakly from the floor. You think prison scares me? Roman looked down at him. No. His voice was calm again, terrifyingly calm. But public humiliation does. Within minutes, federal agents stormed the private salon. Cameras followed. Caleb Sterling was dragged out in handcuffs through the main casino floor, where guests, reporters, investors, and employees watched in stunned silence. His empire collapsed under flashing lights. But Roman was not finished. As Caleb was pulled past the ballroom entrance, Roman stopped him. The same ballroom, the same marble, the same chandeliers. Sophie stood beside Roman, wrapped in his coat, bruised but standing. Caleb looked at her with hatred. Roman stepped close enough for only him to hear. Then he said loud enough for the cameras to catch every word. Apologize to her. Caleb's face twisted. Roman's eyes darkened. On your knees. This time, Caleb Sterling fell because there was no empire left to hold him up. His knees hit the marble. The room went silent again. But Sophie was not trembling behind a tray now. She stood with Roman's coat around her shoulders, her chin lifted, her eyes steady. Caleb looked up at her. I apologize, he whispered. Sophie looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, I don't need it anymore, and walked away. Roman followed, not in front of her, not dragging her behind him, beside her. 3 months later, the Sterling Crown Casino had a new name, the Lane Foundation House. Sophie had argued with Roman for 2 weeks about it. She lost. Technically, it was not a casino anymore. Roman had stripped out the private gaming salons, dissolved the corrupt executive board, and turned the upper floors into a luxury medical recovery center for families who could not afford long-term care. Elaine Lane was one of the first patients transferred. She cried when she saw the room. Sophie cried harder. Roman pretended not to notice, which was the closest he came to mercy in emotional situations. Caleb Sterling's trial dominated national news. The envelope had reappeared eventually, recovered from a lost and found manager who had been paid to hide it. Combined with Roman's evidence, federal testimony, financial records, and 3 terrified witnesses Roman personally kept alive, it was enough to bury Caleb's empire. People called Roman a hero. He hated that. Sophie knew why. Heroes needed clean hands. Roman's never would be. But one evening, standing on the balcony of the recovery center while the Las Vegas skyline burned gold beneath sunset, Sophie realized she did not love him because he was good. She loved him because he was trying to become better without asking the world to forgive what he had been. Roman stood beside her, hands in his pockets, black suit immaculate as always. Still dangerous, still feared, still Roman, but quieter now when he looked at her. Less like ownership, more like awe. You're staring, Sophie said. Yes? You're supposed to deny it. I rarely deny evidence. She smiled despite herself. Below them, traffic moved through the city like veins of light. Her mother was asleep inside, safe, healing, alive. Sophie leaned against the balcony railing. You know, people still talk. People breathe. People lie. People talk. I control only 2 of those. She looked at him. Which 2? His eyes met hers. That depends on the day. She laughed softly. Roman watched her like the sound was something rare. Then his expression shifted. "I have something for you." Sophie narrowed her eyes. "If it's a building, I'm pushing you off this balcony." "It is not a building." "A car?" "No." "Jewelry?" "No." "Roman." He reached into his jacket and removed a folded piece of paper. Sophie took it carefully. It was a business license for a hospitality training program funded through the Recovery Center. Her name was listed as director, Sophie Lane. Not Roman's mistress. Not Roman's weakness. Not the maid from the scandal. Director. She stared at it until the letters blurred. "What is this?" "A program for women leaving unsafe work, medical debt, abusive employers, or situations where men like Sterling decide their dignity is negotiable." Her throat tightened. "You did this?" "No," Roman said. "You will." Sophie looked up. "I don't know how to run something like this." "You know exactly why it matters. The rest can be learned." Tears filled her eyes. Roman's face changed immediately. "I did not intend to make you cry. You're terrible at predicting normal emotional reactions." "Yes." She laughed through the tears. He stepped closer, then stopped. He still did that sometimes, remembering, waiting, letting her choose. Sophie reached for his hand. His fingers closed around hers with careful strength. "I used to think you wanted to own me," she said. Roman's jaw tightened. "There were moments I wanted to." She appreciated the honesty, even when it scared her. "And now?" His thumb moved slowly over her knuckles. "Now I would rather be chosen by you than obeyed by anyone else." The words entered her heart quietly, permanently. Sophie stepped closer. Roman went still. The city glowed behind him. Neon, gold, and violet. The kind of city that swallowed girls like her and crowned men like him. But here they stood. A hotel maid who had spilled wine. A mafia boss who had made a billionaire kneel. Both changed, both marked, both still dangerous in different ways. Sophie lifted her hand to his face. Roman closed his eyes at the touch. That was when she understood. Power had never made him vulnerable. Love had, and he was offering that vulnerability to her like a weapon laid carefully at her feet. "I'm choosing you," she whispered. His eyes opened. The darkness in them did not disappear. It softened around her. Only her. Roman lowered his forehead to hers. "I am not an easy man to love. I'm not an easy woman to protect." His mouth curved faintly. I noticed. For a moment, they simply breathed together above the city that had tried to break them. Then Roman kissed her. Not like conquest. Not like hunger taking what it wanted. Like restraint finally becoming devotion. Like every almost touch, every interrupted glance, every dangerous silence had led them here. Sophie held onto his jacket, and Roman held her as if the entire city could fall away, and he would not move unless she asked him to. Far below, cameras flashed at the entrance of the recovery center. Reporters still wanted their story. The maid and the mafia boss. The scandal, the violence, the obsession. But they would never understand the truth. That love had not made Roman Viscari harmless. It had made him careful. It had not made Sophie Lane fearless. It had taught her that fear and trust could exist in the same heartbeat. And sometimes, the most dangerous man in the room was not the one who ruined you. Sometimes, he was the one who saw your trembling hands and made the world kneel for hurting you.